It was an awesome sight. That when I was a task unit commander, I'd be sitting on base as guys were rolling out, and I'd stand out there and salute them just like old school, right? It was.
And they loved you for it.
I love those guys, but those guys. I mean, every time you rolled out in the streets of Ramadi, there was a decent chance you were getting blown up. There was the gunfight was almost guaranteed to happen, but guys getting blown up.
IEDs was a real issue for you guys, eh?
Oh, and I was thinking about this today. The IEDs, we had statistically the most heavily IED'd road in all of Iraq. Was Route Michigan, going from one end of Ramadi to the other.
Yeah,
and there was IEDs all over the place. It was ridiculous, and we didn't hit any IEDs while we were there. Which I was thinking about that today, because I was thinking about my EOD contingent. We had 2 EOD guys. And I never told them, hey, we never had an IED. Thank you. Never told them that.
So you credit them with that?
I credit them with part of it.
Yeah.
Part of the briefings that they gave, now there was some close calls. Leif's platoon, and as a matter of fact, it's in the book, when the EOD guys were watching the front door. They couldn't quite keep an eye on it, but they did a really good inspection of it. When they came back out, they're like, something looks different. They went down there, and there's a 120 millimeter mortar IED that would have taken out, 4 or 5 guys.
Easy.
There was a time where we went over an IED. Well, the point man navigator in the vehicles was like, "Hey, I think there's something suspicious." Actually, got out of the vehicle to look at it. We're like, looking back, what do you think about that decision-making process? Maybe that wasn't a good one. Anyways, we decided, I don't think it is. We drove over it, and about a half an hour later, the IED clearance team found a triple stack 120. So that's everybody in the vehicle dead, if you hit it. IEDs were a massive threat. The number of guys that were killed and wounded by IEDs in Ramadi was ridiculous. There was a vehicle graveyard, vehicles that had been blown up and then dragged back in it was massive. I want to say 50 to 100 vehicles are just piled up, and including MRAPs, which are the mine-resistant vehicles. Those things are in there broken in half. Yeah. What kind of bomb do you got to put together to do that? Mouge.
We got real lucky, and I know this sounds weird. My rotation, they had conventional mines. So any purse and any tank. And there was the occasional IED, but it was usually SV and in the city. SV means suicide vehicle. So our regimental sergeant major and his driver were killed by a suicide vehicle-borne IED. Yep. And I stepped on a landmine. If I'd stepped on an IED, I would have been vaporized. Mm-hmm. But the rotation that replaced us, our sister battalion, that's when the intelligence says guys from Iraq started showing up, and we went from losing a tire, maybe having one guy get killed through penetration in the hull or whatever, to we had a whole lav go up, and 7 out of the 10 guys in it were killed, and it was like that's how quickly it escalated. Yeah, and suddenly it was an issue for our guys as well. Almost every vehicle we had hit a landmine on my tour, and that was the only time I was ever really scared over there. When I was walking or in a helicopter or even out on a 4-wheeler, no problem. But when I had to drive on the roads in a vehicle, that's when I was like, the pucker factor was the highest for me ever. IEDs, man, and the guys that would go out every day and deal with that shit.
Yeah, the IED clearance guys.
Fuck, man, my hat always came off to those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a nerve-wracking job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's that movie with the EOD guy?
I don't know.
Hurt Locker. Yeah. Everybody who does that job says it's a total bullshit movie, but could you imagine though that's your gig?
Well, we had embedded EOD guys with us, and SEALs usually have EOD, Navy EOD guys that are basically like platoon guys. Our guys were they go through our training with us. They go through. They don't go through the basic training, the basic SEAL training, but they go through everything else.
Yeah, so
and our guys,
they're like supporters.
well, once our guys were like other SEALs, you know,
Right, okay.
they were that good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing. But, and the guys that are with us, and so they're not quite, it's their primary job for us, but it's not their primary job.
Right.
Whereas the guys that you're talking about, the guys that did route clearance, if anybody's listening to this podcast right now, and you did route clearance in Iraq or Afghanistan,
thank you.
Jocko and Jody say thank you, because you saved us so many times. Because we drove down those roads all the time. My guys drove down those roads all the time, and you found all those bombs that saved our lives and so many lives.
Kept the supplies rolling. Kept the local populace safe.
You know how much credit and glory those guys get? None.
Not a lot.
None. And there was in Ramadi, there would be the big vehicle like a Buffalo. You know, a Buffalo is like a giant MRAP. You have to climb a ladder to get into it. So there'd be guys in there that would disable the bombs from inside. They had a big robotic arm, and they would do that. But behind them would be a contingent of Marines in Humvees. And I'd say, what are you guys? Oh, yeah, we're just support. I'm like, oh, get some. Devil dogs. Marine Corps doesn't play around. They're like, oh, you need support? Cool, we'll just get in Humvees and roll behind it. But there's going to be big bombs blowing up. Yeah, we're in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
No factor. We'll deal with it.
I love Marines.
Marine Corps is awesome.